Hi everyone, it's Jen from Mind's Eye, and today we're going to do a deep dive look into Anne Frank, and this is one of the harder ones to do. And another hard one that I've been trying to get out was John Smith and Pocahontas and how it was correlating and how they met up in Roanoke. But there was something of a common factor, and it's called slew. And when I see it with Anne Frank, it was due. And when it was due, you couldn't boo. And when you couldn't boo, you couldn't loo. And when you couldn't loo, you couldn't do or goo or loo or moo or sue to be a boo, to a do. So when I say that, that was how heinous it was for her. And when we said it, you had to say there was something about this that wasn't even funny for her whatsoever. So when I see this on a plain sight, I see this little girl walking to get a milkshake and walking to get an ice cream and walking to get anything that's just of normalcy of a child with friends. And she just starts talking Frank, Frank, Frank. And then she just starts talking nastiness. And then she just starts talking like absolute result. And I couldn't even believe how to get it done. So straight out the bat, I'm going to ask Anne Frank to sit with me in her own way in mediumship. And she's just all full of dust and dirt. And she's showing me it's not ash, but it's ash. And it's Ashton, it's Asher, it's Ashler to get it done because they saw me in a way unknown to be renowned that they couldn't get it done at all. So when I see the deer, that was a must do, but the butterfly upright, but really more in farce was a true ado. So there was a gang per se to have it done. It was a legal, lawful gang that came through, and you couldn't even sue, and you couldn't even boo, and you couldn't even loo. That she tracked and traced it. This little girl, 15 years old. We call her little girl because that's all I keep hearing is little girl. That's all you are in your head is literally such a taunting toward a 15-year-old that you couldn't even boo it. Black egg. It was so ill farce that you couldn't see it. It went from a gang to America to France to Argentina of a kill out, but it was KIL. So, what I have remembered in studying, a KIL comes in a farce of a known, an NON. And when we say that, that's not how it's spelled, but that's how you say it, SEI. And so when I say it, I say the missed message is the nightingale, and it is a lark, and it's a lark bird, and it's a lark done, and it's a lark sun, and it's a lark pun done pun lun gun to get a guy. And in Gaelic over there, because she would have been in Poland, they would still pick up a little bit of Gaelic words that the small animals toying would actually give a message. So the dolphin play says you can't do it enough to have a Sue. It is in reverse. So when it maned out, the mastery and strength came through of all ado to be a Lou. The dragonfly was like a past life message to the turtle in reverse, saying known was new, a do, a boo, a sue. She had to sit there quietly and say it like that. And she looked clinically insane. She goes, no, it's a clear sound mind, which brings me back to my videos about the Salem witch trials. So when I was talking about Appalachia with the bear, there was something about this that you can't get done at all. The bear for Appalachians is a harsh warning of a go about because you're going to be DONE. So let's go to this deck. It's the Rider of White and see what it has to do. So when I actually say it to the highest degree of none, you can't be done at all. And you can't even sue it. It was such a harsh ending with a death card in reverse that it actually brought relief of something. And that it was a halt stop that you couldn't see or sue anything. And I'm saying Susie Q, run around Sue, and Q tip to QT pie to whoopie pie to all these terms of a play on words that it was skilled work to have it done. So with the eight of swords in reverse, it's a type of deceit of healing. But when I'm seeing a digging in heels, they put her on such a stay put order, Anne Frank, that they can't believe that sitting in the closet was actually her job. But when I was talking about slew, it is a type of mix that these criminals drink to stick to you, that it actually induced such honorable actions that you couldn't even do it at all. The King of Wands says, go for it. Go for it. You had to sit alone and be in honor. You had to break up partnerships. The 10 of Pentacles says in reverse, loss of inheritance. So they would lose pertinence. They would lose gifts and abilities and ways that they did their magic, that it was such greed of collecting through. It was inhibitions, the true devil. So when I talk about the devil in 1942, it was someone probably with 5 to 8 people inside of them sitting and waiting. It caused such anxiety that you couldn't understand it. So the monetary imbalance actually comes through and sits and says, no, well, this is what we do. It is an energy imbalance. It is all of it with you, but you can't do anything. So when I see this, the disappointment, they actually gave her honor. They gave her first sergeant, Anne Frank, at 15 years old. I mean, that was a takeaway for her. And that is all she's saying in mediumship. That's the way she talked all day long, to where her father would just flip a coin or just hold something and she would get it. That was discontent as she saw certain things. She would pop off. So actually, uh, contrary, she's like, going to the ghetto was new. Going to Auschwitz was new. I was to be split up from my family. So that was scrying. It was a victory for her a lot of times because going about was too much of strange looks. Uh, Counterintuitive to no intuition whatsoever, that it would cause a celebration. And I'm seeing the scene of Schindler's List where they're sitting and having um, a a big dinner that they can't do it anymore. Having those dinners in World War was such a big deal that you couldn't do it enough, that it was a victory. You weren't to know who the criminal was. It was a hidden game. The Ace of Pentacles says a money offer came in and came through to sit quietly in tranquility per se. but it caused such a move on, and it caused such a move do and move through that it actually came true because observancy was key, prudency was key, and consistency was key. So upon a look even to the loo, you would get to the point of wanting to separate in marriages and relationships and friendships. And then you would actually look in the toilet and say something ran through. So there would be another kick up of other things that we knew of. And that was nostalgia for them. That was something they could not put their finger on anything back then. Judgment came in and it would come through harsh, like 3 to 24 times before they saw you. Now, with that being said, you couldn't even do it. The offering would cause such apathy and say, no, no, that actually it would rest up. And when it would rest up, you couldn't even do at all. So when we say this, we can't even sue it at all. It was a lack of together, of sitting and celebration, of group work that you actually had to sit as yourself as the empress of something that embodies what a female nature should be to incomplete a cycle. That I actually see people with their menses with only 1 to 3 days. And when I say FERCE, that is an old word saying that they didn't even complete anything of a bodily cycle, these women, because they were constantly in a blindfold effect of an eyes wide shut that they couldn't dig at it at all. So when I say it, it was no logic to ill justice. Let me tell you, when they were sick, that is when a true relationship would break out and break up. Page of Swords goes, you can't even do it. They come in so quick, the kids, that you can't even do it. This causes such ill emotions of the tower effect that you actually had to look at towers to and here I am. I'm like, they would do this. I knew the name. Yeah, yeah. In England, the Tower of Abel, the Tower of Babel, the Tower of, and that's how they were like, dirty deal, spell it. And someone would actually be able to be the one to spell it out for law enforcement and military because that was the wishes of this. The strength of everything says you can't even believe how strong they are. This woman would cut out, and men would cut out to a 9-year-old, all of it, everyone down to looking at the dog, that you couldn't see it at all. Grandiose thoughts, maybe if you, especially if you're sitting there, but then I flip over to myself because I'm a magician. I actually speak it through. Most of the time, we actually spoke a different dialect as magician. So when I am speaking by myself, I actually do speak Cockney. That's how it was. That's truly Jennifer Lee Peck and Ashford here. And that's how they used to talk too. So when I actually see this, truly, the Five of Pentacles came in for Anne Frank and couldn't even do it whatsoever. The Page of Cups says this was actually really sad. Was it asylum or was it a true? It was all of a boo, all of a boo. The Hierophant goes, no, of a boo. You can't be a boo and you can't be a sue and you can't be a do and you can't be a loo to be a moo. Dictatorship at its best was a loo. So you can't be a boo, but you can't be a Sue and you can't be a Jew. And that is how they all started educating. So when I still have this old habit of saying, look me in the eye, that means that is where everything was receptive. So she would speak like this. She was of clear sound mind, but if she looked at you and literally looked back, she said, it's in the back of my mind. So the Ten of Wands says, no, you can't do this whatsoever. The Knight of Swords says, no, it is a truth. So when you actually say it, you say, yeah, they truly have a gift of speaking through. That was the annoyance in World War, that we couldn't do it at all, at all. And that is how we know that it was true to Boo, to a Boo. So, when you look at it at Planck value, that you can't be a boo at all. Are we talking mobsters? She literally encountered everything. Literally was everything embodiment to the highest degree of none. They were reclusive. So when we actually look at the Lank card, the sun, she embodied it to the highest degree of none. So her writing about being bisexual and having these relationships was a candid camera view that you couldn't even do it. So when we do it, we actually do apprenticeship. So she learned everything whatsoever. And when we do this way, we had to do it about. And when we did it about, we do it all. We do it all to be it all, to know it all. And I'd say, oh my God, this is mediumship. Everyone wanted in on it. These are all the psychics. That was ill. You cannot say psychic. And that's where it boiled through. High, high regard. So let's actually look at something else. Let's look at Black Obsidian runes. And then we'll go to the poker cards. Havoc. Wealth, Ash. You can't even get it done. Can't even get it done. Living. And then you see defense. When I'm seeing her in her closet with her friends and her family, that it was the women and only the men. And then she actually had to go live with someone else. That was normal as fostering because they had to get certain people out of the area because they would have been picked up on. And she would have, showing me she would have lived a normal life whatsoever. And that is me as a psychic. And then it went kaput. You cannot be psychic in this game. You had to use everything and everything about yourself. It was ill fate. Trolling, absolute trolling that you can't do it enough. It was an ulcer that actually would cut through. And I'm seeing, as we know it as H. pylori today, of harvest collect, that you can't even do it enough at all. When I see this, it is true hidden game. That is what Anne Frank was the best at. So when I see the diary, I see Auschwitz. Uh, she's gonna show me a little bit of Auschwitz, and then we'll do other things there. And that's how she would do. I'm seeing her do this a lot. I'm seeing her do this. I see her with her middle finger a lot, and they literally still do it. They still do it in certain areas, doing like this, magic fingers. So when we go about in our way unknown, so she's showing me actually a slide down in Auschwitz. It's a like a steel rim bar of a slide down, and she's showing me herself in a cartoonish way to get a DUN, but she went a boo, a sue, a loo, different ways of the spelling and got a do. And that was a lot of what had happened of how they did the everything. When I'm seeing this in remote view again, I could see it all over again where it could be a do. She's showing me the Trail of Tears. She's showing me how everything got done. And she goes, related to terms. It basically was Sue of do, of goo, of Lou to bring you through on a way to a do. You couldn't even be. You couldn't even be who you are today without me. And that is where Anne Frank went Frank, Frank, Frank. So bad in Auschwitz. It was a gang uprise. She's showing me. So let's confirm that on the cards. It was so nasty there. They couldn't believe how it led there. And I'm actually seeing lead poisoning. I'm seeing a pencil. I'm seeing all of it. So let's look at the poker cards. Like, why there? That she's saying 29, 29, age 29. Five of diamonds, a five cut through of a known, of a new, of a boo. That literally translated out and that there was someone doing a cutout on a dirty deal that was her job with her family of sitting and stay put that they had to what called rem out. And when they remmed out, they would sleep on it and take a day or two and then take a walk out into the street. But she couldn't. She was not allowed to walk out. So that was her terms. The Three of Clubs says that was her terms, that was her contract. She was not allowed to walk out of her house whatsoever. But the Ten of Hearts says there was a group who were cantankerous at times, which meant they had ends on them and survived. That the Five of Hearts said they actually boiled down to only like five or two at a time. So the Ten of Spades says it was like an arrowhead heart, and then they would see like little glimpses of what they needed. They're like beach, seashell, conch, be about. These are people who actually remembered past lives. That's what we feel. And that's how they would speak. Also, they had to be so quiet. Like if you actually talked about being psychic, if you talked about anything, it was like a type of game that went through that caught her up as a little girl that she had to play along. And that is why it is devastating because it was such a loss of innocence that she had to do adult acts. That it was true bravery that the Eight of Hearts goes. I mean, there's nothing else to say. Her, what she calls her demise, my demise, was actually going forth, and going forth it to cut it away. Because what I saw in Auschwitz and in the streets playing with a ball to a like a little girl walking down the road was more than enough for me to say that I would break terms. To end with it was the three of spades. She's saying that she was not homosexual. She was heterosexual. She had to do um bisexual things, and that's where it was breaking terms because it would come out of her mouth that it was, and then a gift came through for clarity, and then some things would have to be shut down because it was against terms, and they had to make moves, which went to money moves, to a gang, to a mob, to all of it. The three of diamonds says you can't even pick up a box of apples and saying, I can't believe you do that. I can't believe you do that. You actually sit there and you hunt people doing this. It truly is like nastiness. So when I actually say, yeah, it was certain words that would come through in their mouth to do it. The Eight of Club says, all was a none of a done. They had every religion in the concentration camps. They had everyone, even transgender, in there. They had to Ritalin, that came through hard. Uh, Ritalin comes through so hard that it was proof in a pudding of a dough that you could tell what was true and what was not, that old habits were dying hard. Now, with that, we'll look through just the crystal quartz and see what else, and then be done with this deep dive. I feel that she is leading me more into World War II, um, and see where that is. That's how she was. Like, I'm truly acting her out. A go about order is a day, a day, a a day, a day, a day, a day, a day. Spell it out. And then someone would actually do a spell to charm and enchant something, and that's all she wants you to do. And know that in Auschwitz, that sometimes being a witch was okay because it obscured something so hard. Loo doo noo boo you. They were so cutthroat by the end that you couldn't even understand with Auschwitz and Plaszow and Birkenau, that you couldn't understand. They would make sure that criminal among them would not understand. They would put it in their head. So I see it today, I have to say that is true. That is a true. And that's all you need to know. Any questions or concerns? We're going to make part one of Anne Frank. We'll look more into the concentration camps and why is this coming up in the media of witch hunt in World War II again. We'll talk to you soon.